South Africa's political crisis surrounding the Phala scandal escalated dramatically after President Cyril Ramaphosa publicly declared that he will not resign despite mounting pressure following the explosive ruling by the Constitutional Court of South Africa. In a nationally watched address that immediately sent shockwaves through political circles, Ramaphosa made it clear that he intends to fight back legally and politically as the revived impeachment process threatens to become the biggest challenge of his presidency. "I will not resign," the president declared firmly, insisting that stepping down now would amount to surrendering to what he described as a flawed constitutional process. That statement instantly intensified tensions already tearing through South African politics after the Constitutional Court ruled that Parliament acted unlawfully when it blocked the Section 89 impeachment inquiry linked to the Phala scandal. That ruling effectively reopened one of the most politically damaging controversies Ramaphosa has faced since taking office in 2018. And now, instead of backing down, the president has chosen open confrontation. Ramaphosa announced that he will take the findings linked to the Parliamentary Independent Panel report on judicial review, arguing that the process itself was deeply flawed and constitutionally questionable. According to the president, resigning now would mean abandoning constitutional protections and legitimizing what he believes was an unfair assessment process. To resign now would be to give in, Ramaphosa said during his address, insisting that the Constitutional Court itself did not determine whether he committed misconduct, but instead focused on parliamentary procedure. But outside the union buildings, the political pressure has intensified rapidly. Opposition parties have interpreted the constitutional judgment as a massive victory for accountability and are now demanding that Parliament moves swiftly toward a full impeachment inquiry. The Economic Freedom Fighters, which helped drive the legal challenge, says the ruling proves Parliament unlawfully shielded Ramaphosa from scrutiny. Meanwhile, factions inside the ANC are increasingly divided over how the party should respond to the escalating crisis. Some ANC figures continue backing Ramaphosa, arguing that he remains central to the party's reform agenda and coalition stability. Others, however, reportedly fear that the continued Phala fallout could seriously damage the ANC politically ahead of future elections. And behind closed doors, the tensions are growing. Political analysts say the revival of the Phala matter has reopened factional battles that never fully disappeared after Ramaphosa narrowly survived the original scandal in 2022. At the center of the controversy remains the now infamous 2020 burglary at Ramaphosa's Phala game farm in Limpopo. During that incident, large amounts of foreign currency linked to a buffalo sale were allegedly stolen from furniture on the property, including money reportedly hidden inside couches. The scandal raised explosive questions. Where did the money come from? Why was so much foreign cash stored privately? Was the theft properly reported to authorities? And were state security resources improperly used afterward? Ramaphosa has consistently denied wrongdoing. He maintains that the money came from a legitimate buffalo transaction involving Sudanese businessman Hazim Mustafa and insists all legal and tax obligations were respected. But politically, the damage never disappeared. Back in 2022, an independent Section 89 panel, chaired by former Chief Justice Sandile Ngcobo, concluded there was prima facie evidence suggesting Ramaphosa may have violated constitutional obligations. At the time, the ANC used its parliamentary majority to block impeachment proceedings. Now, the Constitutional Court has ruled that Parliament failed in its constitutional duty when it shut down that process. And suddenly, South Africa finds itself back inside one of the most destabilizing political battles since the end of the Zuma era. The difference now is that the ANC no longer governs with overwhelming dominance. Following the 2024 elections, Ramaphosa's government depends heavily on coalition politics and support from parties inside the Government of Unity. That reality has transformed Phala from a personal scandal into a national stability issue. Because if coalition partners begin distancing themselves from Ramaphosa, the political consequences could become severe. Already, the Democratic Alliance has signaled that constitutional accountability must remain central, regardless of coalition arrangements. At the same time, markets and investors are watching carefully for signs of deeper instability inside government. Analysts warn that prolonged impeachment battles, court reviews, and factional warfare inside the ANC could create uncertainty at a time when South Africa is already facing major economic pressure, unemployment challenges, and governance concerns. Yet, despite all the mounting pressure, Ramaphosa remains defiant. In his address, the president framed the battle as larger than himself. He argued that resigning under pressure would weaken constitutional processes and hand victory to forces seeking to reverse institutional reform and anti-corruption efforts. Supporters of the president say he is correct to challenge the process legally rather than resign under political pressure alone. Critics argue the opposite. They believe the president's refusal to step aside while facing renewed constitutional scrutiny contradicts the accountability principles the ANC itself promoted through the controversial step-aside rule used against other leaders. And that contradiction is now becoming a major political talking point across South Africa. For many South Africans, the issue is no longer simply about stolen dollars hidden inside sofas. It has become a test of whether constitutional accountability applies equally at the highest level of power. Parliament is now expected to begin preparations for a revived Section 89 process, while Ramaphosa's legal team prepares a judicial review challenge that could stretch the political battle for months or even longer. And as the crisis deepens, South Africa is entering a political period filled with uncertainty, legal confrontation, and growing factional tensions. Because President Ramaphosa has now made one thing absolutely clear: he is not stepping down without a fight.